better late than never, but here we are. This is episode 10 of the Chama Llama Ding Dong podcast. I'm one half of the show, Ryan Christian Ventura. Just right above me in that box up there, that's my co-host, my verbal sparring partner, Aaron Paul Stewart. Yeah, you're looking down at me. I'm looking up at you.
I'm looking up. I'm looking down. You're looking up.
Yeah.
I'll take the low road. You take the high road. Whatever.
Now before we begin the show, we had a great loss in the combat sports world. The late great George Foreman passed away on Monday evening. One of the most frightening power punchers to have ever lived. One of the greatest heavyweight boxers in all of combat sports, and the entire combat sports world. No, it wasn't Monday. Was it Saturday or Friday?
It might have been Friday.
Yeah. Oh, my apologies. Yes, it feels like Monday.
Yeah, and it is a huge loss in the sport of boxing. I mean, I think when you look at that era of Smoking Joe Frazier, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman's right in there, and especially a guy that took a 10-year hiatus, came back and won the belt at the age of 45, which, if you were to assume that of any combat sports athlete nowadays, that would be unheard of. And then went on to be an incredible businessman with the George Foreman Grill.
Yeah.
Which, a fun fact about that, they asked him when he first signed that licenseship deal, whether he wanted royalties or he wanted like a residual payout, or some kind of lump sum. And he bet on himself and took the residuals and probably made something like, I think they said something around $135 million from that deal alone. So
yeah, something like that. And his family is, still very well, from that deal, of course. The George Foreman, before like the air fryer was all the rage, everyone and their mom and their grandma has an air fryer now. But before that, a lot of us had a George Foreman grill. They were inexpensive. They were good to use. I remember when I first started taking Muay Thai, my mom had a George Foreman grill, and like she would put like chicken breast on it right after training, and yeah, good times, man. The lean meat.
Honestly.
Do you remember what the saying was? It's the lean, mean grilling machine. Lean, mean grilling machine.
There you
go.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And I think like I personally never owned one. Just I think it was a different time. But needless to say, I mean, I just think it's just really cool how a guy with the story that he has, having films made about him, was able to be lucrative outside the ring, and just be like such an interesting guy of the sport. And I obviously know about him, but as stories start coming out in his passing and everyone commemorating him, it's just like there's so much nuance and fun little stories that you hear from like guys like I listened to Teddy Atlas on Ariel's show yesterday.
Me too.
And Jim Lampley on Ariel and Ade's show today. It's it's a massive loss, and he unfortunately, it's like he wasn't that old. He wasn't that old. So
yeah.
But I think that we've lost, like, combat sports has lost a major titan, and he won't he will not be lost in vain. That's all I can. I'm sure I could say more, but huge loss to the sport. But his legend lives on.
Yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace to the legend. I was before we got into this podcast today, I actually was doing a little bit of research, and I was trying to see if George has helped corner or train any notable fighters. And actually, throughout his career, like his work as a pastor at his church, and he had like his own gym in the community to help get underprivileged youth off the streets and into the boxing gym and training and things like that. He didn't really train anyone notable, but one very notable fighter who actually came out of jail in his early 20s was brought to his gym by a corrections officer who wanted him to clean up his life, and that was UFC heavyweight Derek Lewis. So
that's crazy. No way. Wow. Yeah. Crazy.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
wow.
You didn't know that? So Derek Lewis in his early career, because they're both from Houston, he was brought to George Foreman's gym, and Foreman initially wanted him to get into boxing. But Derek Lewis actually preferred the unpredictability and the craziness that was mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
So he's stuck with that. Yeah, there's a picture here. Young black beast with the original beast. Let's see. There's that picture
Wow,
there.
that's cool. That's crazy. That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, big George Foreman, he wanted him to make the move to MMA. It says here there's a quote. He made that move to MMA and it was a wise choice, but it was a very heartbreaking move for me because I thought he could have been a great boxer. Yeah.
I think we can all agree with that. I mean, I think we're all greatly anticipating when Derek Lewis is going to step inside the octagon again. I mean, win or lose, I love watching Derek Lewis. He's must see TV. He's such a
Yeah.
huge star of the heavyweight division, and you know, uh, he's great. So it's just I do wonder if he had ever gotten into just straight boxing to see like kind of where he would where Derek Lewis might be now, and I don't think it's too late for Derek Lewis to even consider that. So,
Well, yeah,
who
especially in the
knows?
heavyweight division, and as of late,
Yeah.
I know Aaron, you've been telling our fans for the last little bit since we've had this show that boxing is the combat sport to watch right now, and the heavyweight division in all of combat sports has always been this very intriguing revolving door of fighters of all skill levels and sizes. It's pretty crazy. Like you look at someone like Deontay Wilder, how far he was able to take his career, starting his career very late.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that right now, and I've said this multiple times, I think that there's no better time to be a boxing fan right now. And I mean, if you want to even just go back and check out some of George Foreman's fights. I mean, the thing about George Foreman that was so incredible is that he may not have been the most technically sound
Mhm.
boxer, but it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when.
Yeah,
And you watch his fight against Morrell, and Morrell really I think that that I was listening to this interview with Teddy Atlas, and he was saying that Teddy Atlas, they were up in that fight, and Teddy Atlas was screaming at Morrell saying, like, "You need to do better, you need to work harder." And, at the end of the day, like, people would look at that and be like, "Well, he's up. Why are you complaining about him? Why are you pushing him? He seems to be coasting through this fight." But and I think that everyone who knew who George Foreman was as a boxer and as a fighter, they knew that, like, again, if it wasn't if, it was when. And when he connects with those big hands, man, like, people go down like a sack of potatoes. So
yeah,
it was always so interesting because you're never truly safe, and I think you can say that about a lot of big heavyweight guys in sport of MMA and boxing. You got a lot of technical guys like Usyk and Fury, but you've got guys like, again, Deontay Wilder,
perfect
Anthony
example
Joshua, Joseph Parker, Lennox Lewis. Like, these guys, they are big guys, and yeah, it doesn't take much to for them to knock a guy out.
for sure. Rest in peace to the legend. Now,
Rest in
let's
peace.
let's catch up a little bit, like on the fights that we were did not have a chance to talk about, due to our technical difficulties. Now,
Mm, yeah,
Um, let's not go through the whole card that was Vittori
yeah.
versus the Elite 2. I don't really think there was anything.
Oh, for the love of God, no.
No, we're so sorry, but I mean, like, it just wasn't the most intriguing card. Although I have to say, I did watch the main event between the Elite and Marvin Vittori. I don't know what it is, but like in every fight that Marvin Vittori has ever been in that I've seen anyway on a UFC broadcast, he always acts like it was the robbery of the century. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, yeah, Vittoria's a bit of an interesting character because, yeah, he's an interesting character in that regard. I think he's a good fighter, and I think that I should backpedal a little bit. This was actually a pretty good card,
Yeah, it
all
was.
said and done,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
and I think my main eye roll is that it has nothing to do with the fighters. The fighters do what they're assigned to do,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of finishes on this card, a lot of exciting moments in this card. But I just think the fighters deserve better than this apex. And I
Mhm.
mean, I know we can talk about this forever, but and I don't I sound like a broken record, and I'm sure I mirror a lot of people's sentiments here. And then, there's benefits to the Apex. I understand why it exists. I totally do. But there's no life in that arena, and I think that it's hard for even hardcore fans of the sport to tune in week after week and have these kind of watered down cards. And I think it's not the fighter's fault. I mean, they're doing, like I said, they're doing what they need to do. But I think they just, when you see them go to Seattle, you see them go to England, and they're going to Kansas City, they're going into Iowa. They got Figgy and Sanhagen in Des Moines, Iowa, and, like, you can guarantee, like, the fans are gonna show out for that, and it just
Mhm,
creates so much more of an electric atmosphere. And for anyone who thinks that, you know, they're saving more money being at the Apex, like, prior to COVID, they were still doing 42 plus shows a year in different cities
mhm.
all across the world. So, it's not that they can't do it. I just think a lot of us look at these Apex cards and we kinda it's har other than maybe the top 2 fights, it's really hard to get excited.
Yeah, for sure, and I mean, like, like we've talked about this on numerous episodes, and we've talked about this to death already. I mean, the Apex, it should be reserved for, being the proving ground. It should be for the
Mhm.
Ultimate Fighter. It should be for Contender Series. It should be for the road to UFC. And maybe that, like, that interesting hypothetical that we talked about, where we should get like the top champions from all the regional divisions on UFC Fight Pass, have them fight in a
Yeah.
tournament, and let them settle their differences inside the Apex, where the winner has an opportunity to fight on the Contender Series.
Well, yeah, and I think that, like, especially if you're gonna enter the Contender Series as a prospect, I mean, I listened to an interview of Artem Vakitov today, who, interesting enough, is fighting, Rico Verhoeven at
Yeah, we should talk about that
that
in a bit.
Glory. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But, he basically said that, they were offering him, like, a kind of, an entry level contract, and he's got a family to feed, and
Mhm,
he's got a God knows how many he is, like, top tier kickboxing talent.
mhm.
And I just think that I'm glad that he has options available to him, because he got this fight with Rico, and that's clearly gonna be a more of a you know, fruitful endeavor for him,
Mhm.
because even though he had a great showing at the Contender Series, he basically said, like, he declined the UFC's offer to continue fighting. So,
Well,
um,
wasn't the entry level contract 20 to show, 20 to win, something like that?
I believe so,
Yeah,
which, I mean,
that's insane when you consider his pedigree of kickboxing. I believe
absolutely.
he holds a win over Pereira, doesn't he?
I believe they have a win over each other. So there's, like, I think that the idea was they were kinda hoping that there might be, like, a rubber match. I don't know if that was ever, like, I think, they kinda tried to frame it that way, or at least, social media tried to frame it that way. But, there was a potential that, like, Alex is on his trajectory doing what he does, but, it would have been a nice injection of talent into middleweight or light heavyweight, to be honest, to have Lucky Tough coming in. But, as you can see, he's such a sound, uh, and hugely experienced guy,
Mhm.
in the sport of, kickboxing. He lost to Pereira in a split decision in 2021, and then later that year won a majority decision,
Yeah.
uh, against him. So it's a 1-to-1, and I mean that's always super exciting when they bring these guys in. I think that I I know people like their slap fighting, but I think that it would have been more advantageous for the UFC to invest in kickboxing than
Yeah.
than slap fighting, because, like, it's clear they're dipping their toes into boxing now with the TKO boxing that we assume it's gonna be like.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like that's the one kind of, quadrant of their, TKO's got the WWE, they've now got boxing, they've got MMA, so I can't see why they wouldn't consider Muay Thai or professional kickboxing.
Man, and that's what the sport desperately needs. I'm a long time kickboxing fan. For those that
Mhm.
like have known me, I've been championing the sport of kickboxing ever since I was a young teenager when I first, even before that. So like the first time I've ever even known about the sport of professional kickboxing, there was a video game on the PlayStation 1. It was called K1 Revenge, right? And
Sweet.
the back in the day, like if you had a PlayStation 1, you probably had like a modded PlayStation 1. So like you can play copied games and things like that. They were on burnt CDs and stuff. And like my mom's boyfriend brought like this game to me. I had no idea what it was, and it turned out to be the coolest thing. And I learned about like all these fighters that were in the game. There was a Crow Cop, there was Ernesto Hoos, Mike Bernardo, Peter Ertz, Andy Hoog, so many like legends of kickboxing. And it was because of this video game I learned what kickboxing was, and I've been a huge fan since. And kickboxing for the longest time has been the most exciting combat sport that doesn't get a lot of fanfare. I used to stay
Which
up.
one did you which one did you say it was called? I'm just trying to I'm just looking it up.
Oh
Is
yeah,
it just K1 Grand Prix?
K1 Revenge.
K1 Revenge.
Yeah,
Ah, there it is. Sweet.
so I'll put it on the screen for you
You
guys.
could you can play as Jean-Claude.
Yeah, like so there
Let's
was this.
go.
So it wasn't Jean Claude Van Damme. There was like this.
Oh, oh.
There was this American kickboxer that when he fought in Japan, they called him Jean Claude because he kind of looked like him, but he was okay.
Okay,
He
cool,
was an
cool.
okay fighter.
Sweet,
But
sweet.
K1
Okay.
Revenge, it was like the way that the game would play, it was along the lines of like if you were to play like Tekken or something like that. So
Okay,
it was like an
cool. Yeah, yeah,
arcade.
yeah.
It was like an arcade style fighting game. It was really good, man. But it was like essentially the gateway to combat sports. Like that's pretty much like how it's been ever since I was a kid. Like to understand my appreciation for combat sports, it comes through video games.
Hey, you know what? I think that's kinda where I first really started getting I mean, at least learning some of boxers' names and stuff. I was a big fan of, I think the first one I ever played was, like, Fight Night Round 2,
Heck yeah, man.
and
That was
then
awesome.
that was honestly, like, I think and I remember, I remember playing round 3 and round 4, and then they did Fight Night Champion, and I think everyone is, like, really hoping in a perfect world that we get a Fight Night round 5 is be a this would right now with the roster of fighters that are available that they could inject into a game like that, it would be just, like, sensational. It would
Have
be
you
so exciting to
have you played the recent Undisputed game?
I have not, I've heard mixed things, but no, I wanted to when it got ported over to console 'cause, I am a PS5 player, but, I was really excited to play it, and then I just kinda heard that it didn't port over too well, and it had a lot of bugs, and I haven't played it, so I can't really comment, but, I
I
heard so things.
I will speak on it because like I remember when it was first announced. My good friend Todd Grisham, who's one of the lead announcers on the Zone, and is actually like the main play-by-play guy for Glory Kickboxing, and also he's the main spokesperson for Undisputed, the boxing game. As soon as he did a
Okay.
video and announced this big boxing game, Undisputed, for anyone who's never played it, it came out on early access on Steam, and there
Mm,
was so much fanfare for this game because like we haven't had like an actual like proper like video game boxing game since Fight Night Champion on the PlayStation
yeah.
and Xbox 360. So when it came out on early access, I was one of the first people to buy it, and
Mhm.
sadly, I haven't touched it probably in years just because
Yeah.
it looks good. It shows a lot of potential. It's just it doesn't live up to what we were hoping it would turn out to be. I know the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has a stake in the studio that owns it, so maybe you
Oh,
know
cool.
there might be some improvements to the game to be made because, as you know, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they're really obsessed with combat sports and every anything and
Yeah.
everything to do with it. Video games, movies, you name it. They want to like promote the sport of boxing like no one else. But I feel like Undisputed to this day still has a long way to go.
It'd be so crazy if, like, let's just say sometime this year they announce a new Fight Night game, and it's, like, sponsored by there's, like, Riyadh season events and stuff like that in the game, and then, like, you get to unlock His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh as a playable fighter. That'd be so sick.
Could you imagine,
Be
like,
so sick.
that would be
Or
that'd
like
be
turkey mode.
yeah, turkey mode, and also, like, in previous, EA UFC games, you were able to select Dana White. Imagine, like, you got Turkey versus Dana White in a
That'd
boxing
be
ring.
so funny. And then after that, they're just like, yeah, like put Eddie Hearn in there, put Frank Warren in there,
Yeah.
obviously put like you could easily inject like some classic fighters like De La Hoya and George Foreman, of course, and Muhammad Ali, etc. So, I mean, if there's ever another Fight Night game, I am like that's a day one buy for me. I'm not
Me
even
too.
kidding.
Me too. EA,
Yeah.
I actually, here's another thing too. Like, I actually have such a, like, when I tell you these stories and I look back at some of my experiences, I actually worked as a QA for Fight Night Champion. I was also a QA on the first UFC video game as well.
All
Uh,
right. Yeah, you mentioned. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Sweet.
it was such a trip, and I loved the Fight Night game so much. So when I heard that the UFC, I mean, sorry, EA had the license to making UFC video games, I was so excited because I really loved the Fight Night games, and I really loved the EA Sports MMA game that came out that got little fanfare. So when they came out
Mm,
with EA UFC, I'm like, oh, there's no way they can mess this up, and
yeah.
it just didn't pan out for me.
Yeah, I just feel like sometimes I think the same thing with like a lot of the if you're gonna play like NHL or FIFA or well now FC, but
Mhm.
you're gonna play any of those games, just like I usually buy them like every like once every 5 or 6 years because I just feel like that's just kind of the same thing
Yeah,
every year, and then
yeah,
eventually there's like it jumps up, you know. So I haven't played I haven't played like a Madden or an NHL in a while, but they're always fun to play. Of course they are. But
for sure, for sure.
yeah, I don't usually invest in them to like every year like some people. So but yeah, there's all like I mean I would really love like a good combat sports game.
Me too. I hope,
Yeah, I play the UFC game sometimes just for fun, but I know that's another game that it doesn't change too much.
man,
So it'd be nice when there's like a big jump, you know?
I, I, uh, the one thing that that I'm not really into is, like, I don't like all the Fortnite type stuff that they add to it, like the loot boxes and all the crazy costumes and things that you can wear when you play
Yeah.
online. Like, I mean, maybe if it was like a different mode, but if you wanted to play like a proper simulation mixed martial arts game, you kind of want it to be like as authentic as it possibly can be. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to fight a guy that's dressed like Ronald McDonald, you know?
Yeah, I know, like, that was a little bit absurd, like, I think that it was good that they add fighters,
Yeah.
as they come up and they have, like, like, the, what's that, like, series that they do where it's like, not like, it's like throwbacks from, like, different versions of
Yeah,
certain
so
guys,
I think they
you
call
know?
them, I think they call them like personas or eras.
Yeah, 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 Persona fight, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's really
I
cool,
think
so
it's I think those are cool,
yeah,
yeah. Those are
but
really
then it's like, for some and then there was that one time they added Anthony Joshua and Tyson
Tyson
Fury in
Fury.
there, and you're like, "What? Why? Why are they in here?" Like,
Well,
doesn't make
I
any
remember
sense.
why they did it. They were actually kind of like teasing people because people would complain about, hey, why don't we have a fight night game yet? And also, do you remember during that time Eddie Hearn was so set on, like, having like a matchroom EA boxing game, and he kept promoting that for a while,
Right. Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah, I do
like
remember that, yeah.
so, the UFC team decided to throw people a bone and be like, "Hey, we're the same people that made Fight Night, but we make a UFC game, and this is the only
Yeah.
game where you can get Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua."
Yeah, that's so no, like, no, this like, that's like the equivalent of, like, we have, Tyson Fury and, Anthony Joshua at home.
Yeah,
No, I want the real thing.
yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, before we close,
At least in UFC 5, I can get John Jones versus Tom Aspinall.
that is something that we
I can
need
make
to
it
talk about
happen.
too. Man, we have a lot to talk about, but before we
We
close off
do.
this conversation about gaming, and honestly, like, combat sports and gaming for me, they go hand in hand. I wanted to give a big
Mhm.
shout out. I have their Twitter up on the screen. I can't read what their handle is. It's UDF. Is that a zero? Is
I
that
believe that's a 0.
yeah, UDF0REFER, so it's UD Forever. So the Forever team, big shout out to them. I follow them on Twitter. They follow me. We talk here and there. They are making this beautiful fan made. Well, let me turn this off. Copyright reasons. So they basically are reskinning uh you
That was nuts.
Fight Night champion. And they're making it like with modern boxers, and they're updating it. They're adding like all the big stars like Terrence Crawford and the, Canelo sorry, my head hurts right now. Yeah, the Canelos and the Tyson Furies, like everyone, like all the big stars, and they're updating it with all the latest people. And the crazy thing is, like,
Mm.
not only are they doing this for boxing. Sorry, I put that up there. So like they have like updates every month. They've been doing this for the UFC Undisputed 3 game for a long time. Look, they even have they have they have Dana White.
Well, he's wearing the black shirt. He's wearing the black shirt and the jeans.
Yeah.
Like, why is he being up Bilal? Why is he doing that?
So,
Why is he doing
if
that?
you wanted to live out your dream of Dana White,
Is he gonna jump off the? Is he gonna jump off the ropes? What is he doing? Oh my
if you
god!
ever wanted to see Dana White beat up Bilal Muhammad in Ryzen, you can with this mod.
Wow. I mean, come on. Oh,
Look
look
at
at
that,
that.
look
I
at
mean,
that
he's
leg
wearing
kick.
shoes. That's not fair.
Yeah.
There's no way this is fair. Why is there a big? Oh, I don't
But
think Bilal has that tattoo. That's weird.
But yeah, man, like
um,
they have some like really
yeah,
crazy stuff here. Yeah, big shout out to these guys. I actually might be doing something with these guys very soon. Stay tuned.
sweet, sweet,
So
awesome.
getting into the last UFC card now. We'll talk about Artem in
Mhm.
a bit. Um Edwards versus Brady. I watched a little bit of this card. I woke up nice and early. It was going down at the same time as the Vancouver Canucks versus the New York Rangers game. Um,
Mhm.
I have to say, anytime there's any kind of fight card, MMA, boxing, even professional wrestling, I honestly truly believe, and I'd love to experience high level fighting one day in the UK. But I feel like the fans in the UK are the best fans in the entire world.
There's a huge, great scene happening in Europe right now. I think I think France has a really good has a good argument to be one of the top crowds as well. Obviously the UFC and the PFL and Bellator have made some events out in Paris since the legalization of MMA, and so you've got like stars like Cyril Gahn. You've obviously got BSD, Cedric Doumbé. Like you've got a lot of French talent coming out of there. So that's also something to keep in mind. But I do agree. I think that the UK fans are, have always been really passionate about the sport. I think that there's a little bit less juice than there once was for the UK fans.
Why do you
I
think that?
think that well, I think obviously you've had the era of Michael Bisping, who was their first UK champion. I absolutely love Bisping's story,
Me too.
how he, uh managed to get past all the athletic commissions with his with one eye. And I watched his documentary, and I he was one of the fighters I really first kind of grew up watching and really enjoying watching him from the Ultimate Fighter as well. But having them gone to the O2 Arena, they've gone to arenas in Manchester. Obviously, now you've got like Paddy Pimblett, who's like representing Liverpool, Tom Aspinall as well from Manchester. So you've got a lot of good guys, and obviously, having Leon Edwards go on a something 10 or so fight win streak, the journey that he had to go through COVID and being pulled off the rankings and like begging for a title shot, and then, basically getting beat 24 minutes to 1 against Kamaru in Salt Lake City, and then pulling off one of the greatest head kick knockouts the sport has ever seen. At those moments in time, I would say that UK MMA was in its hugest boom, so to speak.
Mhm.
And since then, I think a lot of it comes down to the event in Manchester that happened last August. Was it August or was it July?
Well, let's take
Might
a
have been late
look. It
July.
was July 27th,
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah, and obviously, as anyone who follows the sport knows, that the time that the fighters made the walk was something like in the middle of the night, like upwards to like 4 or 5 a.m. And it was a bit of a slog of a fight. Obviously, Tom Aspinall, Paddy. Nick Parkin. A lot of UK fighters came out victorious, but it was the main event against Bilal that kind of sucked the air out of the room, and credit to Bilal, he fought through his skin that night, and he was he beat Leon three rounds to two, in my opinion. But and since then, I don't know if it's like the price of tickets or the just the general consensus of kind of like where some of these fighters are at or where the fan base is at. It's I think it's in a little bit of a slump right now, and I think that like Tom is our most uh uh potential guy to bring it back to where it once was. But yeah, I mean, you look at this fight card, and like on paper, it's a pretty great card. It's showcasing a lot of Irish and English talent, few Scottish fighters as well, a couple guys from Wales as well tend to pop up in these cards. And but I think that you and I talked about it shortly after the after that fight night. There just wasn't. It feels it. I mean, huge credit to Sean Brady, who absolutely steamrolled Leon, as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
it was a flawless victory.
And flawless victory, absolutely. Like, he had something like in the 3rd round, he had something like 4 minutes and 48 seconds of control time, like something outrageous like that. And he's an incredible grappler. He's a really aggressive, a strong grappler. He comes out of Philly. I really like Sean Brady.
Me
He
too.
uh he answered the call like what 5 weeks notice for this fight, because of that whole shuffle with Jack Della Maddalena going to the Montreal card to fight Bilal. And you can't, and a lot of people complain like, oh, why didn't Leon get the title shot? It's like, well, they're not going to pull Leon off the UK card. He's one of their biggest stars, so it made sense for him to stay there. But I think, obviously styles make fights, but this was a really prime opportunity to give Leon an opportunity to just, uh let everyone leave happy, so to speak. And
Yeah.
it really sucks because I mean, I think you can maybe credit his performance in the Bilal fight as the time changes, and maybe he has some injuries, or maybe things weren't right. I mean, there's all like, I don't think fighters like to make excuses, but I think this fight against Brady kind of puts those theories perhaps to rest. I just think the better man won that night.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but it really sucks because, Leon's been like, in my opinion, has been such a team player for the sport. A lot of people really are inspired by his story. Like I said, the things he had to go through to get a title shot, and then now he's on a 2-fight losing skid to really dominant wrestlers. But that's the thing; those are the guys he's going to be fighting when you're at the top. And credit to Brady. I think I'm really excited to see where Brady goes next,
Me too.
personally. But my heart goes out for Leon because I think the UK fans, as well as himself, just kind of deserve a little bit better. You know?
Yeah, I agree. And I was talking to you like right after the end of the fight. I immediately messaged you, and I was
Mhm.
telling you about how I wasn't a big fan of this matchmaking that they did for
No,
him.
neither was I.
You
I
know,
think I think that, like, you have to call up whoever's available, and it's the way the cookies crumble. But sorry, go on.
yeah, like exactly what you said. Like sometimes just how that's just how the game goes, especially being in the welterweight division. Like if you look at the top 10 in welterweights, it's like Jeff
Mhm,
Neal, wrestler, right? Jeff Neal's wrestler.
mhm.
Yeah, Colby
Yeah.
wrestler, Gilbert Burns, jiu-jitsu black belt. Ian Machado Gary, he can do it. He's a generalist, right? He can do it all. Joaquin
Mhm.
Buckley, striker. Well, Jack Della Maddalena, he's a generalist too, right?
I would say he's more of like a brawler, more of a
Yeah.
striker, yeah,
But
but
then you have Kamaru, then you have Shavkat, then you have Sean Brady, then you have Bilal. Wrestlers. Even though Kamaru is he's at the downturn of his career and he's not getting any younger, he's still a high level
Mhm.
wrestler. So like Leon being ranked currently number 3 according to the UFC rankings in Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Um actually no, it says he moved down 2 spots. That's what it says here, -2.
He's buying suits. So he was 1 and now he's 3.
Okay.
Um, yeah, like, and here's the thing, like, you look at, like, you I think we all held out hope that this was gonna be a reinvigorated Leon. Leon had something to prove, and, like, you've seen him take out guys like Kamaru Usman, you see him take out guys like Colby Covington, who are all stylistically terrible matches for him.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, obviously, it's a different style of grappling. I think that Brady is a much more aggressive grappler
Yeah.
than either of those guys. Uh, but, it wasn't out of the question that he could stuff those takedowns and keep it standing, but
Yeah, that's true.
Brady's just a beast. Brady is an absolute beast, and, I mean, like, I'll say it again, and, not making up any excuses, like, Brady, he just had a daughter. Congratulations to him.
Mhm.
He just, like, there was something, he noticed that this was his moment coming into enemy territory to do what he needed to do, and he passed that in flying colors. And now I think that, seeing as how wherever that Montreal card, however that kind of concludes, Sean Brady could very easily be next in line for a title shot, regardless of who wins that fight.
Well, when if and whenever that, like, let's say, for example, like, Bilal still has to get past Jack Della Maddalena. That's such a mouthful to say,
Mhm.
by the way. Um,
It is. It is.
he still has to get by JDM. But I mean, like, if Bilal gets past JDM and, the fight is made, American wrestler versus American wrestler, Bilal versus Sean Brady, like, obviously we know what's going to happen in that fight. Both of their wrestling styles, they're going to negate each other and it's going to turn into a striking match.
Well, yeah. I mean, very possible. I think that Brady's a much more dynamic grappler than Bilal really is, and which I know that they fought before, and I know that Sean Brady's only loss, and but ever since that loss, man, Sean Brady has been like fighting like a bat out of hell. Like the takedowns he put on Kelvin Gastelum, he was like cutting through butter.
Mhm.
Like he had so much ease, and I'm not, discrediting anything Kelvin Gastelum. I'm not saying he's like, the world's greatest grappler, but I mean, Gastelum's like a former, major title contender. And like Sean Brady just like sliced right through him. And then he made really short work of Gilbert Burns. And now he's beating a top guy like Leon, dominating him and submitting Leon and finishing Leon for the very first time. Like I think Sean Brady has only gotten better
Yeah,
since his loss to Bilal, and I think that like a rematch between them is actually one of the most exciting fights you can make at welterweight. I know
very
Shavkat's
intriguing.
injured right now, so
Yeah,
I think don't really know what's when or how or when that's going to happen, but I think if you're going to look at who Brady should fight next, it's either the winner or the loser. I think of the title fight in Montreal or Shavkat. Um,
yeah, yeah,
you could give him Kamaru Usman maybe, but I kind of like the idea of like Ian Gary fighting Kamaru Usman.
yeah.
That's a fight that I like.
I think logically, from a matchmaking standpoint and an argument standpoint, Sean and his team are going to be like, "Hey, I beat a former champion. I should be next in line. I'm number 1 in the rankings right now." Right?
Mhm.
So he
Yeah,
he very well might just want to be like, "You know what? Shavkat will have to beat me when I'm champion." Type of thing, you know?
yeah, and and that's the thing. A lot of guys get injured, and they have to go to the next guy. And I know that Sean Brady is currently ranked first, obviously, but if Shavkat's not ready, and say Bilal handles Jack Della Maddalena, or Jack handles Bilal within the first couple of rounds, like they should be able to turn that thing around pretty quickly. I think maybe sometime in well, if Bilal were to win, that's he's a really good option to have in like the Abu Dhabi cards. So, um, he has a good market there, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I think it's interesting for Brady. I think we got to find out what happens in Montreal, and then we'll go from there. But you're right. I think Brady's like, look, I just beat your former champion. I finished your former champion. I have there's a built-in story with him and Bilal. So yeah, I think that John Brady should probably go to Montreal in May and see who wins that fight and call his shot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Now, I know the fight already ended, but, like, immediately right after the Brady and Edwards fight, I was complaining to you. I'm like, you have Leon Edwards, former champion. He's fighting in front of his hometown, and he's a massive draw in Europe. He's a massive draw in the UK, and they essentially fed him to a young and hungry lion right after defending his title for the first time. So hypothetically, who was available in the top 15 that he could have fought and had an entertaining and potentially more favorable matchup for him?
Well, obviously, I think the JDM fight was a pretty good. I thought when that fight was booked, that made a lot of sense, and it was a really exciting fight. That would have been a striker kind of fight. I think that was the kind of fight that we wanted to see from both guys, being quite frank. I believe they offered the fight to Joaquin Buckley. He couldn't make weight in that short period of time. Totally understandable. Um, there's a bit of a story between Leon and Ian, but I don't know how true this is, but Ian claims that he will not fight in anywhere in Europe unless it's in Ireland. And I think when
Well,
you're ranked,
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, which I get. I think that there's been plenty of opportunity for to consider coming to Ireland in the last while. I think he's kind of, and then no, you've got like Kalen Walker and you've got Reese McKee, you've got Shauna Bannon. Congratulations to those two who had back to back wins on the night as well. So there is an appetite to have some Irish fighters. Like maybe have an event there. You can also fill out the card with guys from Wales and Scotland, etc. But I don't know how true that rumor is with Ian, but he's ranked 7th right now. I know he lost to Shavkat in December, and he had a few things to say on his social media about why he wasn't offered the fight. I think it's just whoever's ready whenever they're ready kind of thing. But
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
just don't think when you're ranked 7th and you've got, then you literally had a week later, you had Walking Buckley coming off of that TKO finish of Colby. Uh, Leon had already been booked. Shavkat essentially had been booked at that point in time anyway. So, oh wait, no, sorry, he had just beat Ian Gary in decision. But so it's kind of hard to call your shot in those kind of situations when you've just lost. So,
Yeah, especially when you're ranked
um,
number 7, you can't really, ask for too much, right?
and Ian was supposed to fight Joaquin, and then that whole shift happened when Bilal got injured, right? So,
Yeah.
I think an Ian versus Joaquin fight looks great. An Ian versus Kamaru, Joaquin versus Kamaru. Any one of those guys in like from Ian upwards, I think are interchangeably really really good fights to make. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's just too bad that, you right after defending your title for the very first time, you're back in your hometown. I believe the event was sold out as well. It's a blow to that scene, and I feel like it could have been handled much better, especially when you had a champion who went through all of the things that Leon Edwards went through. Look at all of his canceled fights. In 2020,
yeah, I know it's crazy.
he was supposed to fight Woodley. He was supposed to fight Hamzat 3 times.
Shemaev three times. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then you have the no
And it,
contest against Bilal,
yeah,
right?
that sucked. That was annoying. And then, but I do want to remind you that he actually he won the belt from Kamaru, defended against Kamaru, and then
Yeah,
defended against Colby. So he actually had two title defenses, and all against grapplers, mind you.
yeah,
He didn't really have any favorable matchups.
yeah,
Even fighting guys like Gunnar Nelson, fighting guys like Dos Anjos, and especially through that COVID period of time that they literally pulled him off the rankings. They literally
yeah.
almost tried to bury him, and,
That was massive BS. Especially like, yeah, that was completely uncalled for. And this one right here, right after he beat Nate Diaz, he was supposed to fight Jorge Masvidal. That would have been a big fat paycheck for that guy. That would
well,
have been
and
big
that's
paycheck.
huge. I mean, I think now, I mean, I would encourage Leon to take some time off, but I think, you come back maybe tail end of this year or even longer, maybe he takes a whole year off, like, that Masvidal fight is ripe for the picking,
Yeah,
I think.
especially since Jorge hasn't really dedicated himself to retirement. In fact, I hope I hope they don't book him in this fight, and this is not related to Masvidal or Leon, but I recently saw that Robbie Lawler is back in the testing pool, and I'm like, no, man, don't do it. Don't do it again, Robbie.
No.
Please, you're just retired in the most perfect way possible. You're going into the Hall of Fame. You're one of the greatest warriors to have ever stepped into a ring or cage. Let's please ride off into the sunset, man. Let's not do this. No Chuck Liddell ending,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. I know. I agree with you. Could not agree with you more. I think that they've inducted him into the Hall of Fame. They gave him that package. They've showcased him. You can see how emotional he is. He went out exactly the way we hoped he would go out.
Yeah.
If Robbie Lawler is going to fight anywhere, it's going to be bare knuckle FC. He's going to fight Mike Perry. That's what I want.
Yeah, yes, please. Yes, please. But
like
um but
like
yeah. Yeah, go on, sorry.
I just think that that's like, at this point in like Robbie doesn't have to prove anything else, and he can just, make a big fat paycheck. Maybe fight a Jeremy Stevens, maybe fight a, any one of those guys in that kind of realm. I think he's perfect for that. Especially at this point in his career. But yeah, he's in the testing pool. Is he thinking of boxing? Is he thinking of doing, like, the grappling? I don't know, because like, I just think that we don't need to see him come back so soon after such a perfect ending for him,
No.
So
I was actually having a personal conversation with a good friend of mine who's a top level boxing coach, and like we were talking about like all these legends and all these like big names, the Jorge Masvidals, the Robbie Lawlers, Nick Diaz, guys like that, like all they've known their entire lives are fighting. So like even when they're very popular, they can make a lot of money doing autograph appearances and nightclub events and things like that. There's still that itch. They still have this thing inside them where like they don't feel like human beings unless they're fighting. And I don't want that for guys like Robbie Lawler. And Jorge Masvidal, he doesn't have like an illustrious career like a Robbie Lawler, but I mean, like, if there's a money fight that makes sense, and if there's a fight that like Leon would want, like, I wouldn't say that it's an easy fight because that's disrespectful to Jorge, but it's an intriguing fight because there's a story behind it. Jorge Masvidal became one of the biggest stars in MMA shortly after he had that incident with Leon.
Mhm.
After Leon fight
Yeah.
Donald Cerrone, was it? I can't remember.
I think that was the fight that Leon beat Gunnar Nelson in. No, wait. That was the fight where, Masvidal beat Darren Till, and then they scrapped in the post-fight interview.
Yeah,
Yeah, Edwards fought, Gunnar Nelson that night, and,
yeah.
and then they yeah, it kicked off in backstage.
Yeah,
The
and it
the
led
two
into
the 3 piece in a soda, yeah.
yeah, it led to this like massive viral thing where it was just like right place, right time, very unfortunate what happened in the back to Leon Edwards, but Masvidal essentially, took out the golden boy, the original golden boy Darren Till. He was supposed to be the next big thing coming from the UK in the mixed martial arts world. He took him out.
Yeah.
And then he had that incident with Leon in the back, and then he had that flying knee shortly after against Askren, and the rest is history, right? So he's
Yeah,
still a big star.
oh, yeah, absolutely, and, I don't wanna take anything away from Leon because, uh, but, like, that Masvidal fight is just so ripe for the picking. I think it would be they'd just be stupid not to take advantage of a fight like that where, we're ushering in a new era of welterweights right now, and I'm pretty happy with the way Leon's career has gone. I think that if there's a new era coming in and it's kind of the changing of the guard, so to speak, I think that like he deserves some more money fights. He deserves
Mhm.
exciting matchups with big names, and because you put him against anybody in that top seven, really, so to speak, uh, that there's a chance that we're just gonna keep watching him lose. And I just think that we wanna see more opportunities for him to showcase his talents and put on cool shows.
Yeah.
Because and if it means that he's not gonna be chasing the belt any longer, then I'm okay with that. I'm honestly okay with that.
Yeah, and honestly, sometimes, it might not be the most popular opinion, but sometimes for a fighter, it might even be good to like, take a break from chasing the title. Just fight because not only are you getting paid a bunch of money to do it, but because this is the fight that you want.
Well, yeah, as well, and like some of these guys have been preparing for 5 round championship style fights or main events for a long time, right? So it's exhausting. There's so much pressure on them as athletes, and whether that involves the media obligations and all the other things that they're involved in. Yeah, I think taking a step back and kind of reassessing your goals and seeing where you're at. I mean, Leon's still young. He's only 33 years old. Like, if anything, there's a chance he gets a kind of he starts hitting like a real new peak of his athletic prime, right? So
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
who
I mean,
knows?
like
Who knows what could happen?
33 is still old in fight years, but I don't know. Maybe something to consider. We can do what they did back in the day with the Ultimate Fighter, where they had like the UK versus USA. I mean, like who knows? There might
Yeah, that was
be
cool.
like maybe do a fun one because like they're doing a fun one right now with Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen. Maybe they can do like like a Leon Edwards versus I don't know Stephen Thompson or something. I don't like just make it
Yeah.
something really fun.
I mean, you could do a Masvidal Edwards
Oh,
UK USA,
oh,
and that would probably be pretty good.
that would
Probably be pretty good.
that would probably be actually if you want to. I was like thinking along the lines of something that's like kind of wholesome but tough was never wholesome. So like imagine you have like Jorge Masvidal coaching, Leon Edwards coaching, and like the with the whole. Actually, it might even get really ugly because, like, like the political stuff that's going on in the U.S. and you know how
Mm.
like we all know about Masvidal's like politics and all that.
Oh yeah.
Very very juicy TV.
Yeah, I think, I know we try to stay out of it on our end, but, sometimes, sometimes I don't have the energy to engage in
Neither
and
neither
just
do I.
the glazing of a certain president, I'm just not into it. I'll leave it at that. Um, but, I always think about, like, who could be, like, good tough coaches, the ones that are relevant because, before this we had, it was Valentina and Alexa Grasso,
Yeah.
and then before that, you had Connor and Chandler, and, well, that never happened.
What a
Um,
waste of time and
never got
money.
well, a waste of time and money, but, oh well. Interested to see how he does against Patty in Miami next month, which I'm excited for that card. That's gonna be great.
Me too. Me too.
Hey, you could do a Jones Aspinall one, but you don't need to. There's so much juice to that fight anyway.
Yeah,
We just need
yeah.
the fight to
No,
be
just
booked.
just give us the fight already. I was about to I was about
Give
I
us the
was
fight.
I was
Give
about
us the
to
fight.
I was about to drop a big fat F bomb because we all want to see that fight. Like
It's like,
I listened to the Ariel interview with Tom Aspinall the other day and like basically we
mhm.
learned nothing.
Well, it seems like Tom's taking his foot off the gas, and I think that he's had some good conversations with UFC personnel. I think they're probably. I don't. We don't know. We don't know what the negotiations are like, but it seems like we're slowly getting there. Um, but there's just so much weird. Like, okay, did you see that? Like, there's a statistic that if in 2 months John Jones will be declared as the longest reigning heavyweight champion the UFC has ever had, but it's because he hasn't been stripped or he hasn't been fighting.
I
Like,
didn't hear
that's not
that, but I heard that like he wants 50 G's or something from this fight.
and you know what? Give him the 50 Gs.
Yeah.
He's earned it. He's earned the 50 the 50 mil, sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
50
50
mil.
Gs, 50
Yeah,
mil.
50 mil, 50 mil.
Like, let him have it. Let him have it. He's earned it. He's the GOAT. Like, I yeah, why are you like, if anything, he's being undervalued in this scenario. And like I get it, there's always going to be a new guy, a new young guy coming up, but but Tom is the interim champion. When does the interim champion not fight for the unified belt? I'll keep talking about this until this fight happens. This is ridiculous. It's
I'm curious to know who is the
got to be
who's
Connor. It's got to be Connor, right?
Uh, um, biggest payouts
Biggest payouts in UFC history. I think it's got to be Conor Khabib.
in one night.
It has to be, right? One
I
night.
wonder who
Let's
the
see.
biggest payout in boxing is. Is it Floyd Mayweather, $500 million, something crazy like that?
Pierre versus Bisping. Oh, that. Oh, sorry. That's number 16. I was like,
Let's
wait,
scroll
no
down.
way. It's got to be Conor Khabib, right?
Okay, Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar. Oh, because that was his return at 200, 8
Yeah.
mil. And even so, like 8 mil, I think
Look,
it's worth
look,
more than that.
look at this. Connor reported payout 6 million. Like, is this them or is this combined?
No, it's got to be just for him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it says versus Eddie, right? Connor
Yeah.
versus
Okay.
Nate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I mean, let's just so needless to say, Connor has most of the records.
yeah, Connor has 3 records, probably more than that. No, 4 records. Five. That's Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz.
5?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah, but still.
Okay. Anyways, like we
Yeah.
already know
There you
that they
go.
don't disclose all of that either openly, but I
Oh
I
yeah,
I
that's all like yeah.
I think off the top of my head, the biggest purse for just showing up to a fight in all of combat sports was Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao. I think it was $500 million. I think, or was it 100 million? 100. It has to be not 500. 500. You can't make $1 billion off a fight. Like I'm genuinely curious.
Of Mayweather. I'm just looking at myself.
Yeah.
Uh, Bleacher Report
I got to get
says.
my Chat GPT prepared next time.
Let's see here. Oh, that is absurd. Um, oh my god, that is crazy.
Well, do tell.
Okay, so I'm just looking at this thing. I'll send it to you later, but so it says like by round as it goes up. So it's for Pacquiao to walking into the first round, he made $9.9 million, and Mayweather made close to 15 mil just for entering the first round. And by the end of the fight, Mayweather was walking out with 179 million. $808,511 and Pacquiao 119,872,340. That's what it says here.
My goodness.
And yeah, so I think something like if you were to combine all of not Pacquiao, Mayweather's career purses, it would be over $1 billion. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. And as we both know, a lot of people paid a lot of money not to necessarily watch Floyd Mayweather and his genius in the ring. It was to see him potentially get his ass beat, which never happened.
Yeah.
Which never happened.
Yeah.
I mean, like
I mean, like, I mean, I'd fight Mayweather if I was getting paid just shy of $10 million for every 3 minutes.
hell, give me
Like,
50.
I would just be like, I'd be like, come on, don't just let us go to like round 6.
Yeah, dude,
You can knock me out after.
I'll give him a discount. I'll take 50 G's to just go one round with him.
Yeah, like I could use 50 G's right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I'll take 50 G's to do one round with Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, I always make that joke to people at my job. I'm just like, you know what? Like, I know it's not like that much money, but like, you know, like 50 G's could really hit right now. You know,
Me too.
and that's and then the UFC's like, that's the highest we will ever give anybody any money for doing something good.
And the craziest thing too is like, you know, on those fight purses, you know, when you consider like, okay, let's say the entry level is 20 to show, 20 to win. So like, let's say you walk away with 40K. Keep in mind, I'm the horrible at math and everything, but you have to factor in taxes in whatever country they're in. So like, let's say American taxes, and let's say you're a fighter from Canada. So on top of American taxes, you have to pay Canadian taxes, and then on top of that, you have to pay for your corner, and you have to pay for various other things. Like, what if you have to see a physiotherapist? Maybe like, let's say for example, if you're fighting full time, you don't have medical or dental. So you have to pay for all of that out of pocket. That sucks. right? So
It's
like what?
crazy.
So like
It's
you're
yeah.
walking away with like less than 10 G's now.
That's why you always wonder why people are like, why would someone get into combat sports? Like, why would you want to be a boxer? It's like these guys are just built different, man. Like these men and women are built different. They wanna like this. It's not. I mean, they are prize fighters at the end of the day. They need to make money. They need to support their families. But there's plenty of other jobs you could have without getting your face, you know, punched. But hey, kudos to them.
Yeah, and you know that
I like training. I don't know if I'd ever
yeah,
want to make the walk personally, but
like, I mean, like, I mean, there might be some opportunities for me to walk to make the walk in the future and everything. Like, I mean, it's obviously different from, doing like kickboxing tournaments and things like that. But actually, like making the walk and going to the ring is a different story, and it'd be a lot of fun to do it. But before we go ahead and look into the next upcoming fight card, this
Bernard.
fight card this coming weekend. Other than the main event between Edwards and Brady, I think the co-main between Ulberg and Jan was intriguing. I thought like I don't know, like maybe it's because like I wasn't like fully paying attention, but I thought the fight between Ulberg and Jan was a little bit closer.
Yeah, it was pretty close. I think it was like I think Ulbrich won like a 29-28. It wasn't like the most barn burner exciting fight, but I think it's cool to see a fresh face kind of take like that is like a signature win for Ulberg.
Mhm.
He comes from a great camp with Izzy and those guys at City Kickboxing. So I think it's exciting to see some new life enter the main contenders. Obviously, you're gonna have this Ankalaev Pereira rematch, and it makes the most sense. But yeah, Ulberg's right there. He's right there. Maybe he finds out who wins against Jamal Hill and Khalil, or maybe he takes on who else is available. Maybe he fights who else is available? I don't know.
Okay, so obviously Yuri is not available.
That would be cool. That'd be cool.
That'd be
I'd watch that.
that would be an interesting fight. Yeah,
Is that too much too soon for Ulberg, or is that just like
I feel like for especially with someone like Allberg who is I mean he's not a spring chicken, he's 34 years old, but like in the fight world, like based on his pro record, he seems pretty fresh. He has 12
Mhm.
wins, one loss in his MMA career. He has a very like marketable look. I know like he used to be like a model or something like that, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's
what he's
ladies' night.
yeah. Yeah, he used to
Ladies'
be a
night.
model, so, like, he has, like, a very marketable look. I actually just learned right now, I thought this whole time, whenever I'd watch his fights, I thought his nickname was Black Jack, like like the card game Blackjack. I didn't know it was Black
Black
Jag.
Jag,
Yeah, I had no
which I
idea.
believe is a jaguar of some
Yeah,
variety.
yeah, yeah, or
Yes.
or Magic.
He seems cool. I like him. I think he's like, obviously he kinda checks the boxes of what a lot of, what will be appealing. He was like a former King of the Ring champion. He's a good looking dude, all said and done. Um, he comes from a great camp. Yeah, I think like I mean it's too soon to say what's next for him, but yeah, I would say like between Jamal, Khalil, um, Yuri, I think those are like obviously the only guys that you could even consider putting him against. So I'd be curious to see how that goes.
Man,
Because Alberg was supposed to fight him. Was
Khalil?
Alberg was supposed to fight
Khalil?
Jamal, and then Jamal dropped out, and then because it was Jamal and Khalil, and then it was Alberg and Jamal, and then it was Alberg and Smith, and then it was Smith and Delete.
What a revolving
How we yeah, what a how the money have fallen. No, I like Anthony Smith. I like him a lot. Um, yeah, that was so confusing. Yeah, yeah, I'm looking at the topology. But, yeah, and I think it's cool to see Kevin Holland back on track. Um,
Yeah, that was very interesting
interesting.
too, because, like,
Yeah.
wasn't that Gunnar Nelson's first fight in 2 years as well?
Yeah, and, I think Gunnar Nelson's just one of those guys that, he always fights on these UK cards. He's kind of like the unofficial spokesman of those cards, and it's always good to see him on there. I've always liked Gunnar Nelson.
Me
He's
too.
he fights with he fights with Connor, or like he did train with Connor for a long time. Um, great grappler, but Kevin Holland, he was really impressive. He was able to negate that kind of onslaught of wrestling. Handled himself pretty well on the ground, and almost got a finish. I think Kevin Holland should honestly stay at 170. I know he's more comfortable at 185.
Yeah, I think
He could fight at what
I
he
think he looks better at 170, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think that he could. He even said he could fight next week at 185, but when he has to fight at 170, there like I feel like it encourages him to take the fight a little bit more seriously. He does fight very often. Like he fought Renier de Ritter in January, and it's only end of March now, so he's very active, and I think he likes to fight. He likes to make money. I just like to see him win, and I think that if he's more strategic in the fights that he chooses, then we could actually see him become a real threat at 170.
Well, that remains to be seen, because when we were talking about that
Mhm.
earlier, Kevin Holland's biggest kryptonite, it seems to be wrestling, and the welterweight division is just a
A
murderer's
lot of
row.
wrestlers.
Yeah, a ton of
Yeah.
wrestlers. But I mean, like, like you said, if he just like takes things a bit more seriously. But if you also look at Kevin Holland's record too, 27-13, he's only 32 years old, but he has a lot of mileage on him, man. A lot of
Mhm.
mileage.
He
And that
does.
is something to really consider.
Absolutely.
And
Did you know he's fought more times since 2018 than John Jones has fought since 2008?
really?
Yeah,
Holy
there was a
shit.
statistic that Kevin Holland has been in the UFC for 7 years and has equal or more fights than John Jones has since 2008.
Every opportunity you get, you gotta have a little dig against the champ, don't you?
No, I love John Jones. I'm just saying, just stop, just either sign the contract, whatever. If there even is a contract, I hate when people say that, but if there is a contract, just sign it,
Yeah,
uh,
I
or
agree.
or like vacate the belt. Like,
Hey, also, one last thing before we close out on the UK card, like for real. So Molly McCann, who is like women's MMA staple from the UK, at
Mhm.
just the young age of 34 years old, she's put down her gloves and she's calling it a career.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've always loved Meatball Molly. There was a moment in time where she had like two back to back like spinning elbow knockouts, and
Mhm.
she chose a Patty, of course, and she's always been a staple for these cards. And basically, she said, if I'm losing these fights on a week's notice to someone who's brand new to the organization and in front of her fans, she felt that like she's not where she once was. Yeah, and I really appreciate her as an ambassador for UK MMA, and I think if she feels it's time to move on, then it's time to move on.
I
Uh,
agree.
but uh, but she's done really well, I believe, like investing in businesses outside of MMA. So I think she'll do just fine.
For sure, for sure. I just was looking at her record, and she's looks like she got her first UFC fight back in 2018, shortly after she won the Cage Warriors title in 2018, and her
Yeah,
UFC debut was against Jillian Robertson, and she lost.
Canadian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she lost rear naked choke in 2018. But essentially, when she got her start in the UFC, that was pretty much the time for women's MMA in the UFC. So she literally is a pioneer.
yeah, no, absolutely, and like say what you will about women's MMA in a vacuum, so to speak, but she was fighting Priscilla Cachoeira, she was fighting Ariana Lipsky, Tyler Santos, you know, like she was fighting top names. Julie Stoliarenko, Diana Belbita. Like, I mean, it just, there's Erin Blanchfield. I thought that fight was a little bit of a stylistic nightmare for her when that came up. But she's always been game. She's always been exciting. And then at that point she was on a 3-fight win streak. So, you know, um a pioneer for women's MMA. I think one of the first female UK fighter to fight in the octagon. So yeah, nothing but respect for her.
Yeah, all respect to Meatball Molly. Now,
Mhm.
we're sort of getting to the tail end of our podcast, but we still have a little bit
Mhm.
more to talk about. We have this upcoming card in Mexico City this Saturday, headlined
Oh, yeah.
by the great former UFC flyweight champion Brandon Moreno as he fights Steve Ursig in the headline bout. And this is going to be a nice one because, it's another fight night card, but it's not at the Apex, it's in Mexico City. And the
Yeah,
crazy thing too
and
is it's on free it's is it free TV? Do they call it free TV? But
free TV?
it's being headlined by Mexico's favorite son in mixed martial arts.
Absolutely, man. I think this is kind of like, they're kinda making amends for not having Brandon Moreno at the Sphere, first and foremost.
He that
Um, I think
which was a big L. He should have been on that card.
yeah, yeah, he should have been. I guess, I think he's spoken about it and said he couldn't make it happen, which is fine. Um, but now he's fighting on this card, and I think this is exactly what, the Mexican fans deserve. You've got, Raul Rosas on there, you've got Manuel Torres. Um, I'm excited about this Kelvin Gastelum Joe Pyfer fight.
Me too.
You got David Martinez, Ronaldo Rodriguez, Kevin Borges, Edgar Shirez. Like, there's a lot of really great, Latin American talent, a
I
couple
got I
Brazilian guys in there.
I got to shout out Lupita Godinez, former BFL
Oh, Luis
champion.
Godinez,
Yeah, former BFL
sweet.
champion. And
I didn't
she's
realize she was in there.
yeah, she was a former BFL champion, and once she signed with the UFC, she went back to her home country and decided to take her talents down there. But I mean, she's been a great fighter for the strawweight division, and she's always a game opponent. You always it's like
Oh, yeah.
every few months you see Lupita in a card.
Oh, absolutely. She's super active. She's always really exciting. She's lost 2 decisions recently, but, she always bounces right back. I think I watched her fight. Did I see her fight at no, I'm thinking of someone else. But, yeah, no, I'm excited to see her fight. I just think that, like, when they stack the deck with fighters of the region, it's always gonna be exciting for the fans and exciting for the Mexican fans are so passionate as well. Um, Whether they do those UFC Noche, during a Mexican Independence Day, or they do the Cinco de Mayo weekends, um, the stuff of the Sphere. It's been awesome. So I'm excited for this card just because on paper there's plenty of names, plenty of exciting bouts on there, and also it's in front of a crowd of people that want to watch some good fights. So I'm excited. I think there's a lot to watch and a lot to be excited about, and then, yeah, I think I mean, I really like Steve Erceg. I think
Me too.
that, I watched him fight, David Dvorak when they had the Vancouver card here, and that was really cool. He
Mhm.
came in late notice and upset, Dvorak, like, shut him out 3 rounds to nothing. And then obviously, Erceg had a pretty good stint against Pantoja. Um, I like Steve Erceg. He's fun. He likes to laugh at himself a bit, and then Moreno's just when you watch him fight Albazi, he was just putting on a clinic in Edmonton. So
Yeah,
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 it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
yeah. It's gonna be quite good. I mean, now let's say for example, Brendan Moreno puts on a hell of a performance against Ursig, maybe finishes Steve Ursig. I mean, Ursig is ranked number 8 in the flyweight rankings. Does that just based on the finish and the name alone, does that like put Moreno back in the title picture, like officially by
I mean,
default?
I think
Probably.
so.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, flyweight's kind of a bit of a revolving door in a sense because Pantoja's kind of fought everybody. It is expected that he's going to fight Kai Kara France. Whenever Mokaev gets inserted back in the UFC, I think that's just like the fight to make. I like the idea. Like Tetsuya Taira, he had a fight against Brendan Royval not too long ago, but Royval's been injured. So, um, who and the Manel Cop is there. So there's a demand for some fresh faces in there. So, but as we see these rankings, and there's some new guys coming up. There's some new guys kind of bouncing around. I would be open to seeing like Kaya Sakura fight the winner of this fight.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
that would
Because
be a
one
banger just because like Kaya Sakura, like, don't be fooled by him being ranked number 15 here. He truly is a world-class guy. They really did, like, yeah, he was the champion of Ryzen, but they just straight up threw him into the wolves. Like
Yeah, yeah.
there was no warm-up match. It's like, you know what? This is your first time fighting inside a UFC cage. Let's see what you can do, right?
Yeah, and I think that I think that's a really cool kinda story to watch this year is, like, where does Asakura, like, how does he fare, uh, in the top 10? You'd have to give him someone in the top 10, I think. I don't think you need to give him any kind of, grace period warm-up match because there's plenty of guys in that top 10 that are, super intriguing matchups for him. So, yeah, obviously, we don't wanna see Pantoja, just keep fighting the same guys, but I think what's best for Pantoja right now is to just whoever they put in front of him, he just fights them.
Just keeps knocking them down,
And
right?
yeah, 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 and, I'd be interested to see if there's a I just think he's too small to move up to bantamweight, but I do like the idea of maybe Figgy coming down, but Figgy's fighting Corey, so there's a lot of interesting matchups available for him, but we'll just have to kinda see how it, like, pans itself out for the flyweight division. But, flyweight, is slept on, I think. It's deeply slept on. It's a really great division. These guys are hyper skilled, hyper fast,
Mhm.
good personalities as well. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too, me too. Alright, so we went over that card. Now, is there anything else in the fight world that's been, interesting to you?
Um, well, I do think it's cool that Glory as are having their
Yes.
first fight in the USA. And they've made a streaming partnership deal with DAZN, which is
Mhm.
always exciting. I
Long
think that
overdue.
the more access we have to high competitive kickboxing is always going to be a bonus for combat fight fans. Absolutely. So looking forward to see how that pans out. Where I think we were all kind of hoping that Rico was going to fight Francis because God knows what's happening with Francis at PFL. We don't know. Um, I would like to see Rico and Ngannou. That would be sick. But I'll take the Vakitov fight, and that's cream of the crop level kickboxing that I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, me too. Like, that is gonna be absolutely insane, and, what, they did it right, man. The big 100 event for Glory, they're gonna have, okay, so Glory 99, that's gonna be the last heavyweight standing, so you got Ben Sadiq versus Ristia, that's gonna be excellent card. Um, but, back to, like, 100 right here, man, this is gonna be a big fight, so essentially, you have the best light heavyweight kickboxer in the world versus the best heavyweight kickboxer in the world. It's gonna be a absolute barn burner. And you know what?
Mhm.
Big ups to sorry, I can't pronounce his last name. Vakitiev, right? Vakitiev?
Verhoeven, Vakitov, I
Yeah,
believe.
Bakida, Verhoeven, like I've watched him for many years, so like I'm familiar with him. And but
Mhm.
Vakitov, I've seen him fight before and everything like that. And he bet on himself, man. He got a spot in the contender series. He looked really good. Everyone knew he was an actual class kickboxer, and that man did not disappoint. But now he gets to really show it at Glory's 100th event, and he's gonna make a bunch of money doing that. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
kickboxing once again, man. Like, it's one of those sports that I hope it gets, like, the shine that it deserves being on the zone.
Oh, yeah. I think just more eyes on the sport is what it needs, and, when you've got these big marquee fights, I think, like I said, like, you get some more, some names on there that draw people in, and then you filter the undercard with some really intriguing matchups. There's no they have no choice but to make this, something that people wanna watch, and people who it's like if you know, you know, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And my in all the years of working in nightlife, how this all ties in. So kickboxing is a big part of Dutch culture. For some reason, the Dutch, they have, some of the best dance music, and some of the best strikers in the world. So like a lot of guys that I've worked with over the years, tour managers and artists, we would become friends because of kickboxing. They like, I would talk to them about fights and they would be like, "Oh, you're from Canada? You know about kickboxing?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I've been watching for this many years. These guys are my favorite fighters and all that." And yeah, Glory, like it almost feels like it's for a long time it's been exclusively like, a Dutch thing. It's been a Thai thing. It's been a Japanese thing. It hasn't, like, even though like Glory is the premier kickboxing league in the world, it almost feels like it's just dedicated to like the best fighters come from like all those regions. But it's the and the crazy thing too is like we've had champions from Canada, like the great Joseph Valtellini. He was a Glory champion. He's from Ontario. He's from Toronto,
Sweet.
and he was one of the
Yeah.
Glory's champions.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't watch as much kickboxing. Like, I mean, I watch some of the K1 Grand Prix and stuff like that, and Glory's done a few heavyweight tournaments. I've always been super interested. There's a lot of names I don't know, but it's like with this new deal, I think it's only going to increase the visual product. I mean, obviously Alex Pereira is there and two-time Glory champion. There's so many names, but like obviously like Sammy Schelt and Boss Rutten and all these guys. So I'm just excited to see this new era because really they're the only outside of one doing Muay Thai. There's not a whole lot of televised high level kickboxing in North America, and I just think this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like the more striking, the better, and more opportunities too. Because especially for like a lot of the high level kickboxers that made it to the Glory, made it to K1 over the years, like Canadian guys, American guys, they all it was almost like they for their entire career they fought like an away game. You know what I mean? So like you would have like top level kickboxers like shout out to Josh Johnsey, the Johnsey family. Josh Johnsey, one of the best lightweight kickboxers in the world. He's from Surrey and he was a Glory fighter for many years. And his entire family, like, they are considered massive pioneers in the world of kickboxing in Canada. They're originally from the UK actually. But
sweet.
And like, there's people like man, his name slips my mind. I watch his content all the time. He's from Victoria. Gabriel Varga. Gabriel Varga is from Victoria. He was a Glory champion. He also was a K1 champion. He now fights in karate combat, and he's one of the best featherweight kickboxers in the world and a top YouTuber, but not a lot of people really know Gabriel Varga. Right? There's so many world-class guys. Even like one of my coaches back in the day, Michael McDonald, the Black Sniper, he's from Vancouver. He knocked out Mir Krokop in the early 2000s in K1 from Vancouver.
Oh,
right?
That's crazy.
There's so much history there. Actually,
yeah. Well, hopefully this is just a new era for Glory and kickboxing in general, right? Oh, just watching. I'm just watching this highlight reel of all these guys popping up on here.
No worries. I want to, before we close things off, I want to actually show you that knockout. And I don't think we'll get in trouble for this one, just showing this knockout. So it's Michael McDonald, Mir Krokop. This was a big deal when this happened because back in the day when this knockout happened, like no one thought this guy from Canada would do this to Mir Krokop because Krokop is the Terminator, man.
2001年クロアチア
He really is. Look at him. It's just like, look at the size of that guy. Oh my lord. Man, when they hit the body with these kicks, it's crazy. It's just like it. It's just like I love watching. And it's just like not only the grainy footage and everything, but these guys are just like huge. They're just massive dudes. Like they're terrifying.
Yeah, man, they're absolutely huge. And like I'll show you a picture of me and Coach Michael from back in the day when I was like just starting out in training. The guy's huge, even like in the twilight years of his career.
ホーストとの決勝の舞台に勝ち上がることができません。
Should be coming soon.
狙っていますミルコ・クロコップ。左腕を引いています。
じりじりじりで追い詰めてますね。プレッシャーかかってますよ。
Oh, there it is. Oh. Oh. Good lord.
マイケルバコ
Right.
Oh, buddy. This was that was
just
massive.
Yeah, he's like, on my.
Yeah, doesn't know where he is.
And,
聞いてます、聞いてます。ちょっと危ないですね。
The referee lets him walk.
yeah, see, man, you watch this, and yeah, he's like, no way, no, like, yeah, that's rough, but also very impressive. Oh well, let's talk about. And yeah, hey, wow, we were talking. We sure were talking.
Yeah, there was so much to talk about. I guess the way that I'm gonna close off this episode, I actually have a busy schedule coming up in April. I have 2 events in the same week actually that I'm working.
Okay.
April is gonna be BFL month, so I'm gonna start locking down some interviews for BFL, coming up.
Sweet.
Let's look at my calendar.
Sounds-
So we got BFL 83. It's going down on April 17th. Here in Vancouver at the Harbor Event and Convention Center. And also I'll be working the Copa Katana grappling tournament on Saturday, April 19th. More details to follow. So I got a high level MMA and I got high level grappling in the works. Aaron Paul
Nice.
Stewart, where can they find you on the internet, man?
On the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram at Aaron Paul Stewart, at Aaron Paul Stewart. And then I am on X at Aaron Stew 117. And that's about it. Or you can check out my IMDb. Oh, actually, should have mentioned this earlier. I shot an episode of a show last year. It's a show called Happy Face. It's on Paramount Plus. Episodes come out every Thursday. I am in episode 4 for a brief little role. It's a true story, true crime about the Happy Face killer. Those who like true crime, check that out. It's got Dennis Quaid and a few other really great actors. And you will see my face very briefly in episode 4.
Awesome. I can't wait to check it out, my man. Ryan
Sweet.
Christian Ventura, you can find me on all major social media platforms, Ryan Ventura 604. On X, you can find me at Ryan Ventura 778. And yeah, man, it was good to catch up with you. No technical difficulties here. Made some slight improvements to our broadcasting quality, being able to have the screen and us chatting on the side at the same time was really nice, and even threw in a little video clip. I don't think, like, with that old grainy K1 footage, I don't think we're gonna get in trouble for that. But I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens.
And if we get in trouble, we just say we didn't know.
Yeah,
Because we didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know. Anyways,
All right, man.
thank you very much, Aaron, for joining me on the show. And this was episode 10, man. Holy.
Episode 10. Wow, look
did
at that.
it.
We've done 10.
Yeah, we did
We
10.
made it to the 10.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we would have done 10 at the appropriate time if it wasn't for the technical difficulties, but that won't be happening again, I promise.
There you go. Hey, it was bound to happen eventually, and now we're back on the wagon.
Yes. All right, Aaron,
Yeah.
thank you very much. We'll chat next week. Remember, episodes available on YouTube and Spotify. Usually on every Thursday. Usually every Thursday I have an episode on Spotify and YouTube.
Awesome. Hit the bell, subscribe, do the thing.
All right. Take care, Aaron. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.